All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and it's so good to be with you on another Saturday evening here at Free. If you don't know, thank you for that. We're getting some woohoos in the house. If you don't know, we are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, and our mission here is to break the silence of addiction. Why do we call this place free? Because everything that sets us free, grace, compassion, love, forgiveness, these are the things that are so freely given by God. So we call this place, you people, free. Welcome to all of you online. You're part of this community too. We love having y'all here. We'll hear more from you later. And listen, I know there's a lot of people. The AA convention is up in Keystone. I know we have a lot of people up in Keystone. I know there's a lot of people camping this weekend, and some of y'all told me you were tuning in from the mountains and other places where you traveled, so we're glad you're here. Sober living houses, free circles, wherever you're gathered in your kitchen, living rooms, we're glad you're part of this community. So, a lot going on. Speaking of being part of this community, Jen and Christy, can I put you on the spot for a moment? Yeah, come on up for a minute. Come on up. Just can you come up for just a minute? Come on. Jen hates it, but she knows she loves it. You don't have to say anything because you don't have a mic. I just want people to be able to see names with faces. So step in here a moment. Step in here. Come on, I got to scoot over a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna make room. So here's what y'all need to know. Um, Jen and Christy flew in. I've been a pastor for many years. Uh, in my experience at churches, people don't fly in from other states to be part of something. It's just my experience. But what's cool about this is we've had some people fly in from out of state. The Salazars. Remember Ricky and Jamie, if you're watching. Is he on tonight? Oh, that's right, Ricky. I'm glad you're here, dude. The same to you, Jamie. But Jen and Christy flew in from North Carolina. They are so much a part of this community. They tune in each week. We know them, don't we? I mean, they're our friends, even though you've only been here twice. So I just want to say I love y'all. I'm so glad you're here. They just flew into Denver today. Jen is celebrating 2 years sober. There we go. All right, you can go back and have some coffee, and I'm just glad you're here. Life is good, y'all. There's a lot going on, so I just want to take a couple of minutes, and let you know what's happening. First, we're going to wrap up our series tonight on emotions. We've been spending 6 weeks dealing with emotions and feelings and the roller coaster of recovery. And the next series we're going to do is called Faith After Doubt, after Brian McLaren's book. Here's a little snippet. Faith After Doubt. We're going to spend 6 weeks there. My boy Ryan, throw your hands in the air like you just don't care. Me and Ryan are going to be, that was awkward, sorry. We're going to be leading a 6 week book discussion on this book, Faith After Doubt. It starts this Wednesday. So the series kicks off on Saturday night. The book discussion kicks off this Wednesday. It'll be 6:30 to 8 p.m. No signups, just come. But y'all, here's what I would say. If you're going to come, get the book and start reading it this week. We'll cover the first 3 chapters this week. Is that right? First 3 chapters? First 3 chapters this week. Ryan shaking his head, yes. First 3 chapters. So come. This is really important stuff because what we're going to do is not debunk doubt. We're going to talk about why doubt is important in your journey of faith, how it's actually an element of your faith. It is not the opposite of faith. Doubt is an important element of faith. It is how we grow. And we don't shy away from them. We don't ignore them. We don't act like they don't exist. We embrace doubts because God is all over that, in my experience. So I hope y'all are part of that. That's going to be 6 weeks, but we will take one break in the middle. And that's going to be September 29th. That's a Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And here's why we're taking a break in the middle. Can we throw that the next panel discussion up there? We're doing a panel discussion. It's called The Truth About the Opioid Crisis. I want you all to come to this. I think you know we have an epidemic we are living in the midst of. It's not new, but it is getting worse. I've mentioned this for the last few weeks. Last year, in 2019, I should say, 72,000 people died of drug overdose. This year, 2020 at least, during the pandemic, that number went from 72,000 to 93,000. We have an opioid crisis on our hands, and the three panel members that you see on the screen, dear friends, great people. I can't wait for y'all to meet them and hear from them. Some of you know them. So they've actually, everyone but Josh has been a guest storyteller here. Josh, if you're watching tonight, man, we got to get you to be a guest storyteller here. Josh is the president of programs and at the Denver Rescue Mission here in Denver, and you can spend time later reading the other bios, but I hope y'all are part of that. That's a free event, open to the community. Invite your friends. We're going to talk about this because we need to talk about this. It's affecting our community in really grave ways, so I hope you plan on coming. Okay, the last thing I want to tell you about is Alyssa starts tonight. Alyssa's in the back with our kids. She is our new to the staff team here at Free. She's our director of Free Kids and Family Empowerment. So she's putting some structure with our kids and going to be part of family life here. So I want y'all to see this video, and then we want to invite you to something. Here's a video from me and Alyssa. Hey everyone, I'm Ryan, the pastor and executive director here at Free Spiritual Community, and this is Alyssa, our new director of Free Kids and Family Empowerment. Now, we've known for a long time that we need to up our game when it comes to children's programming. We have so many families here with young kids, and the need is growing. We want to add to their spiritual formation, their emotional intelligence. We want to be a place where they can engage their own journey of recovery, which is, by the way, one of the reasons we added family empowerment to Alyssa's job title. Because we know issues of addiction and recovery affect the entire family unit. So Alyssa won't just be hanging out with your kids in some back room. She'll be leading them through a journey of spiritual formation and staying in frequent contact with the families of our kids, and planning events for families and children as well. So Saturday nights are going to look different. Our kids will have a bit more structure, thanks be to God. But also Free as a whole is adding another layer because, like I said, the work we're doing here of breaking the silence of addiction has to do with the health and wholeness of families. So Alyssa, I'm glad that you and your husband Aaron and your little girl Ashlyn are part of this community, and I'm so glad that you are joining our Free staff team, and I want people to hear from you. What are you most passionate about when it comes to this work?
Yeah, thanks Ryan. I personally am the loved one of an addict, and I think what excites me most is giving these kids the tools to thrive and grow, no matter if their loved one is sober or still struggling. As a new mom, just a few months ago, I had to make the decision each week if I could bring my daughter or if I needed to find childcare. My heart always wanted her to be with us. Now that we're starting a kids program, we're hoping that more and more families that haven't been for a while or new families will come and join us. This not only takes the stress off of us as parents on a Saturday night, but our kids will be taught meaningful lessons that mirror Ryan's teachings and are in alignment with recovery practices. They will also be given the opportunity to sit down with other kids with similar stories and find connection and acceptance. This is just one step in the healing process of our littlest Free members, and I cannot wait to meet you and your kids here at Free this Saturday.
Now, I need to tell y'all, Free is not a traditional church, so this is not just another kids ministry. We have the burden of not just teaching our children about God and the Bible, and don't get me wrong, y'all know that I love the scriptures, but our burden here demands a deeper conversation about topics like substance abuse and mental health and how that all affects the entire family. And more importantly, we are committed to breaking generational cycles of addiction in families. There is so much more to come with Free Kids and Family Empowerment. I want y'all to stay tuned. Love y'all. Alyssa, we're so glad you're here. Next Steps is happening on Tuesday, September 14th. Do you want to invite everyone to that or say a word about it?
Everybody is welcome, parents specifically. I want to talk to you guys about our dreams, our ideas around what Free Kids is going to look like here in our current space, and then when we grow to our newer building, whenever that is. I want you guys to come with your ideas, things that you want out of the kids, free kids, because we want this to be catered towards their needs. They're oftentimes, like me, a loved one of an addict, and it's important to grow as a family and to heal as a family. So those little kiddos, our littlest free members, they need that too. They need a space.
Alyssa, I am so glad you're here. This
Happy to
is
be
so
here.
needed. Thank you for being here. Come Tuesday, September 14th. All right, Alyssa. Have fun back with the littlest free members. Someone get her some coffee. All right, so glad y'all are here. Aaron in the back, we're glad you're here too, brother. All right, y'all, how we start here in this community at Free is we begin by celebrating. We share celebrations together because, as you know, it's too easy to get stuck in the muck and the mire. Who says muck and mire? It's too easy to get stuck in all the heavy burdens. We don't ignore that stuff. Here we do not. Y'all know that. We don't ignore it, but we do save it for the end. We start with gratitude and celebrating. So this is your opportunity online. You can take 3 minutes. Put your joys, the good things that are happening, the new thing. Maybe it's sobriety anniversaries or babies being born or new jobs. Whatever the new thing in life is that you want to celebrate, put it in the comments. We want to celebrate with you. If you're here in the house, we'll do our own thing. And you got 3 minutes. We'll be right back.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride and find myself, I am alive, and I soar. Still I run towards the wind and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. 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 Oh, wake up heart and wake up mind, and see the world is yours to find. And with every passing day there's more, calling you out to explore. Get up and go. There is joy found in the race, and I feel it in the place where I'm free. And I simply can't deny it, that I feel adventure calling out to me. Yeah, we are all looking for adventure. 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 We are all looking for And I'm living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. Living free, living free, living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free, living free.
It's just a day, man. I'm proud of you, dude. Yes. Yes.
I'm Jessica, celebrating 5 months sober on Tuesday.
5 months sober. All right, Jessica. That's good stuff. What, Francis, step up here a moment. Francis, will you remind this community, because when I forget to say it, Francis always reminds me, And I know y'all can't hear him online because he doesn't have a mic, but remind us what we don't do here.
We don't do shame.
We don't do, let's say it on three. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Thank you, Francis.
Thanks, Francis.
All right, Tammy's going to come join me up here. For those of you that don't know, Tammy is my lovely wife. We started Free together 3 years ago in our backyard. Oh, my goodness. Tammy's also the founder of Wagon Coffee, and she's just knocking it out of the park. Should we start with that celebration?
Yeah.
Tell us what happened this week.
Well, a lot of things happened this week, but the most recent was we were voted #1 in 5280's Top of the Town for most eco-friendly product in Denver. So,
Right.
that's
So
one
y'all
to
get
say.
you some
Can
Wagon
I get
Coffee.
A whoop?
We can do a whoop,
Yeah.
whoop. Jeff, do you have enough white coffee?
I'm on my 4th cup of the day.
Okay.
It's
We're
like
going to
every
start a
other
new
day I'm
addiction
sending
recovery
more.
group here.
I love it, Jeff. It's a lot better.
All right, shall we celebrate with our people online? Let's celebrate with the online ones. Y'all, we had so many great things happening here in this live community. It's so good to be here with y'all, but they are just as much a part of our community. I'm going to let you take the first one.
Yeah, Mike from Chicago says celebrated another birthday. We also got some answers on my wife's health. Mostly good, at least it's treatable. We'll take
All
that,
right, Mike, celebrating that with you, brother. Okay, Jerome, my brother,
Hey,
celebrating my wife's graduation as a board-certified nurse practitioner this week. Very proud husband of a powerful woman.
Yeah.
Jerome will celebrate that with
Awesome.
you, dude.
That's a big deal.
That's awesome.
Hey, Ricky from Texas, celebrating little Jackson Kane is healthy and growing every day. He's about the size of an eggplant, but can't wait till he's here.
Ricky and Jamie, we're celebrating that with you. Jackson, can't wait to meet you. For those of you that don't remember, Ricky and Jamie flew in from Texas a few months ago to be with us, and here they are getting ready to have a baby. Look at that. That's good
yay.
stuff. Pamela says, my daughter just got engaged, and they are moving closer to me. She will only be 2.5 hours away instead of 9 hours.
Woohoo.
God's greatest gift to me is being a mother. Pamela, we will celebrate that with you.
Pam.
Let's do one more, shall we?
One more. Hey, Chris, I get to go with my youngest daughter to try on wedding dresses this Tuesday.
Oh, my goodness.
Dresses for her, that is. Thank you for clarifying, Chris.
Chris, because we would wonder, man. You know we would.
We love you, brother.
All right, dude. Glad you're part of this community. Thank you, Tammy, for celebrating with us. It's good to celebrate together, y'all. We got to remember to keep celebrating with one another. All right, y'all. We are in our 6th week of emotions. It's our last week of emotions. Man, we've been doing all the feels, haven't we? It's been good. We need to deal with these things. It's been good? Hard? It is hard, isn't it? Yeah, resentment. That's why we took a week off last week. We did resentment, then everyone's like, we got to peace out for a minute. Here's a little video. All right, everybody. So as I was saying, the 6th and final week of this series on emotions, the emotional roller coaster of recovery. And this week is joy. So here's what I want to do with you. I want to just identify 3 very brief and simple observations that I've made on joy. I'll keep them brief and simple. And then I want to talk through these observations with you. Are you ready? The first one on joy is joy and fear often roll together. And this is okay, isn't it? A lot of people will try to convince you otherwise, but this is okay. Number 2, you can experience joy even when it's hard, but to do so, you must express some gratitude along the way. Is it true? Yeah, number 3, joy is rarely experienced in isolation. Yeah, so here's how I know that joy and fear often roll together. Because last week, the Canadays spent a 3-day getaway in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, up in the mountains. And on one of those days, we spent the entire day at this place called Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park. Anyone been there? It's a fancy way of saying an amusement park. And I highly recommend it. If you haven't been there, very cool place. So in the middle of town, there's a gondola that you get on, and you take this up to the top of the mountain, and that's where the amusement park is. So we get up to the top of the mountain. All of us. This was a family thing. Me, Tammy, all 4 kids. And the first ride, so this has roller coasters, different rides, caves, different activities for all family people, all family members. So the first thing they see when we get in the front of the park is this ride called the Soaring Eagle. And they're getting all excited. There's a lot of hooting and hollering. Now, Breck, our 5-year-old boy, he's hanging in the back a little bit. And he's back there. He's smiling, but he's biting his nails. And he's saying, I go up to him. He said, Poppy, I don't know if I can do it. It looks so scary. And I said, well, first, let's see if you're tall enough. So he goes up to the sign, and he's just barely tall enough, half-inch tall enough. And I said, buddy, you can do it. He says, but Poppy, I don't know if I can do it because it looks so scary. And I looked at him and I said, dude, 2 days ago, you climbed a 14,000-foot mountain with me and made it to the top. I said, if we could do that together, I bet we can do this together. And he says, all right, let's go. Now, Brett gets on this ride with me, and I should tell y'all, he had every reason to be a bit fearful. Because what happens is you get on this seat, this 2-seater thingy, they strap you in and secure you, and then you get pulled up the mountain by a zip line 600 feet up in the air to the top of the mountain. But you're backwards. You're backwards, so you can't see anything. The only thing you can see is everything getting smaller as you're getting pulled up. And then you pause. And it's just long enough to think, man, is something broken up there? What's going on? And then you get released, and you fly through the air down the mountain. That's why they call it the Soaring Eagle. Here's proof of a 5-year-old. I took this video before I read all the signs of no videos on the rides. But here's proof that joy and fear truly do roll together. Take a look. Did you hear the little giggles in there? Scared to death but giggling. Now this is the best part of it. That is not the scariest ride at this park. Because a couple of years ago they opened this ride called the Haunted Mind Drop. Oh, and here's what happens. Anyone been on it? I've got to tell you about this ride. Kristen, you've done it? Oh, this is sick. So you get strapped into this seat. They make sure you're secured. You're strapped in. When you get strapped in and secured, the floor from beneath you, it disappears. It gets removed. And you're looking down like, this is weird. I can't see the bottom. At that moment, there's a loud voice over the speakers that yells, fire in the hole. And then it goes completely and utterly dark. Can't see your hand in front of your face. And then you just drop. You free fall 150 feet in utter darkness, and then you just stop. You come to a sudden stop. Yeah, it is freaky. And my 8-year-old daughter, Shiloh, she must have ridden this ride a dozen times. And after each time, she said the same thing. Poppy, it's so scary. Let's do it again. It's so scary. Let's do it again. After about the 12th time, we walked up the hill to the, you know how some rides at amusement parks, they take your picture when you're on the ride? So as you're free falling, they take your picture. And then you can go to this booth and spend like $4,000 and buy a picture. We look at all the pictures, all 12 of them, and I'm not making this up. Tammy, is it true? Her face was the same in all 12 pictures. Her eyes were like this, and her face was squinched up, and you could see every muscle in her arm. She's clenching at her seat, and it's scary. And y'all, the truth is, sometimes you're falling, and even though you know you're being held, it's still scary, isn't it? You know, I have to tell y'all, when it comes to this community, I believe God is holding this community. And I actually believe that with my whole being. And I want you to know that as your pastor here in this community. I believe that with my whole being. And I say that to you all because you do know that it was 4 weeks ago. It was exactly 4 Saturdays ago. I came into Free, and I was filled with fear. Man, it was the night I had to make the announcement that we lost what we thought was our new home. We had to terminate the contract, and for 3 months we had worked on this deal, and we were so certain of it. We had a vision casted in this place, and I tried to build excitement with you all and get you all excited, and you joined me in this excitement. And then I had to come here with all that fear, and fear's a funny thing, because it was that kind of fear that that the daytime would be good and even the nighttime, and you could even fall asleep okay, but then you would wake up suddenly at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that voice would say to you, the whole thing's going to fall apart. What in the heck are you doing? You're not good enough for this. Man, fear is a tricky thing. And what I know is fear and joy also, they coexist. Because you know what else happened that Saturday night? A few of you know this. I shared it with you, but I haven't shared it publicly. That same Saturday night, 4 Saturdays ago, right after the service, 2 people came up to me. I was standing right here. 2 separate people, separate times. They both had tears in their eyes, and this has never happened. They said the same thing. Free saved my life tonight. Right after that, right after the second person, 30 seconds later, I'm walking towards the windows over there, and someone said, hey, you're still taking donations though, right? And I said, yeah, and I'm thinking in my mind, well, that's strange, because did you just miss the announcement? We lost our home. And I don't know where we're going. It feels like we're a bit homeless right now. And he said, well, I want to give $10,000. And he said, I believe in the mission. Keep going. And I thought, man, I went to bed with joy that night, if I can be honest with you, because it was this full kind of feeling of, I'm reminded of the mission. I'm reminded that we get to do this work together. I get to be here with you in this community, and fear and joy can coexist. They so often walk together. And you know what the other thing is? You can have joy even when it's hard, even when it's really hard. You can have joy, but you have to show some gratitude along the way. You know what I mean? So there's this really messed up and beautiful story in the New Testament book of Acts. And if you're new to the scriptures, the New Testament, it's the second part of your Bible, and it goes Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, then this book, Acts. And beautiful, messed up story. You can read it later. But Paul and Silas. Now, Paul, we've talked about Paul here before. He's often called the Apostle Paul. He would travel around to different regions after his conversion experience, after his transformation experience, after seeing the light. He would travel to different regions and start new movements, start new churches. And oftentimes he would take companion travelers with him, and this time it was Silas. So Paul and Silas travel into this first century city called Philippi. And the text tells us, again, you can read this later, Acts chapter 16. The text tells us that there was a slave girl in Philippi that was following them around for days. And this slave girl was filled with what's called the spirit of Python. And apparently, back in the day, this spirit would allow you to predict the future. So this slave girl is following Paul and Silas around for days. Paul finally gets fed up. He's had enough. And he turns around and says to this slave girl, "Spirit, come out of her." And the text says immediately, the spirit comes out of the slave girl. I know, messed up story, right? Beautiful story, though. Stay with me. Now, if you're a slave girl, that means what? It means you have slave owners. These slave owners are making money off of this girl predicting the future. How do you think they feel about Paul saying, demon come out or spirit come out? They've just lost their ability to make money. So they're angry. They start bringing Paul and Silas up on charges. They accuse Paul and Silas of advocating for unlawful systems, causing problems, causing a disruption to the economic system. The text tells us that they were causing an uproar in the city. So the crowds join in the attack. They're brought before the legal authorities, and the legal authorities order that Paul and Silas are stripped naked, beaten with a rod, then thrown into the innermost cell of the prison where they're put in chains at their feet. And y'all, I say that because I wonder for Paul and Silas, in that moment, did the thinking slip in of, man, the whole thing's falling apart. It's all falling apart. And imagine what Paul must have been thinking. Man, here we are, God. We're doing your work. And this is what happens? This is how it's going to go down? We're out here doing our thing for you, and this is what happens? And y'all, let me ask you, is it possible that when it feels like everything is falling apart, sometimes things are actually falling together? You see, maybe you feel like you've been following God, or you've been following the steps that have been laid out before you by the universe, and things are going good, but then a virus hits, or then a deal falls through, or then a relationship goes awry. And it's like now you find yourself in all sorts of different prisons. Prisons of fear, prisons of panic, prisons of unrest, and you are now in chains, chained to things that you never dreamed you would be chained of, and you're sitting here thinking, joy? You're saying there's joy somewhere along the way? So let's pause for just a moment. If that's you, pause. Take a look at your life. What are the things that are falling together? Start with what you have. And I know culturally we are trained to start with what we don't have. Well, I don't have that money, and I don't have that degree, and I don't have that house, and I don't have those people, and I know we're trained that way, but we've got to start with what you do have. That's called gratitude. And listen, this needs to be talked about. God isn't found in destruction. God is always found in healing. So when bad things happen in the world, and your first question is, well, why did God do this? That, my friends, is a bad question. And I know in school we hear all the time, no, there's no bad questions. All questions are, no, there are bad questions. And bad questions always get bad answers. And I'm the king at bad questions. I mean, some of y'all know this story. When my brother was killed in a car accident when I was 18, drunk driving accident, he was the drunk driver. Man, my first response is, God, why'd you do this? You did this. All powerful, all knowing God, you did this, and you could have intervened, you could have stopped it, and you did this to me. I was stuck in finding God in destruction rather than healing. 7 years later, when I was 25 years old, I was in seminary, and I will never forget, I read a lot of sermons in seminary for this certain class, and I read a sermon by a pastor by the name of Reverend William Sloane Coffin. He, for many years, was a senior pastor at Riverside Church up in New York City. And for many, many years, I carried this sermon around with me in my backpack. And it fundamentally changed my life. And I know we can't often say that about a sermon. This sermon fundamentally changed my life, and I want to read to you, with you, just 2 paragraphs from this sermon. He wrote this 10 days after his son Alex was killed in a drunk driving accident where he too was the drunk driver. He was on a bridge, lost control, and his car went into the river. He gave this sermon to his community 10 days later, and here's what he said. Just 2 paragraphs. When a person dies, there are many things that can be said. Oh, we're not there yet. Sorry, I didn't give you guys these notes. This ain't the scripture. This is Sloane Coffin here. When a person dies, there are many things that can be said. And there's at least one thing that should never be said. The night after Alex died, I was sitting in the living room of my sister's house outside of Boston when the front door opened, and in came a nice-looking, middle-aged woman carrying about 18 quiches. When she saw me, she shook her head, then headed for the kitchen, saying sadly over her shoulder, "I just don't understand the will of God." Instantly, I was up and in hot pursuit, swarming all over her. "I'll say you don't, lady." For some reason, nothing so infuriates me as the incapacity of seemingly intelligent people to get it through their heads that God doesn't go round this world with his fingers on triggers, his fists around knives, his hands on steering wheels. God is dead set against all unnatural deaths. And Christ spent an inordinate amount of time delivering people from paralysis, insanity, leprosy, and muteness. But violent deaths, such as the one Alex died, to understand those is a piece of cake. As his younger brother put it simply, standing at the head of the casket at the Boston funeral, you blew it, buddy. You blew it. The one thing that should never be said when someone dies is, it is the will of God. Never do we know enough to say that. My own consolation in knowing that it was not the will of God that Alex die, that when waves closed over the sinking car, God's heart was the first of all our hearts to break. You see, my brothers and sisters, if you get stuck looking for God in destruction, oh God, you look at Afghanistan, God, why'd you do that? The coronavirus, God, why'd you do that? If you get stuck looking for God in destruction, joy will always escape you. So my brothers and sisters, where are you seeing healing? Where in your life is God redeeming things? Because those are the things that allow you to be in prison, but not imprisoned. So here Paul and Silas are in prison. They've just been stripped naked, and they've been beaten, and they've been chained at their feet to the ground in the innermost cell. And you know what the text tells us? The text says they begin to sing robust songs of gratitude to God. Strange, isn't it? They've just been beaten and stripped naked. Talk about starting with what you have, starting with gratitude. Can you imagine Paul saying to Silas, man, this isn't going so well, is it? But my man, at least we still have our breath. At least we still have each other. At least we can still sing. So check it out. Here's what we're told. Now to the part, fellas. Acts chapter 16, just 2 verses, 27 and 28. This is fascinating. When the jailer awoke and saw the open doors of the prison, he thought the prisoners had escaped. Now he's got someone to report to, and people have escaped. So he drew his sword and was about to kill himself, but Paul shouted loudly, "Don't harm yourself, we're all still here." And the prison guard at that moment says, "What? Paul, you could have left, man. The doors are open, your chains are broken. You could have left. You stayed?" And then the jailer says to him, "What must I do to have that kind of life?" And then the jailer invites Paul and Silas into his home, and they talk about the things of God, and the text tells us that Paul goes on to baptize him and his entire family. And what stands out about this story is Paul stays. Man, he was free to run, but he stayed, binding himself to the other, to the jailer, to the guard, saying, your well-being is wrapped up in my well-being. My joy has something to do with your joy. We are in this thing together. My brothers and sisters, joy is rarely experienced in isolation. And the truth is, some of you have been trying to do this thing on your own. Is it true? You've been trying to get sober on your own. Or you've been trying to love the addict in your life on your own. Or you've been trying to do the spiritual journey on your own. And does it work? And again, I'm the king at trying on my own. I know what it's like. I mean, when I tried to get sober the first times, I said, man, I'm going to do this on my own. No one can know about this. I'm a pastor. That would be embarrassing. That's going to make me look bad. I could lose everything. Lose respect in the community. A pastor can't be a drunk. There's a theologian, a scholar. His name is Stanley Hauerwas. He teaches at Duke University. For many years, he was the ethics professor. And he talks about joy is when you suddenly discover that the other exists in such a powerful way that you lose your self-infatuation. In other words, it's the moment when you stop caring, you stop being obsessed with what the world thinks about you. And he says, therefore, joy is the great enemy of narcissism. You see, here's the deal. You will experience in your life times when things are hard. You will have those moments where it feels like everything is falling apart. And the truth is, in those moments, you are free to escape. You are free to run. You're free to check out. You are free to worry only about yourself. You can do that. Again, how many of y'all are good at that? We know how to do that, right? I know exactly how to do that. I know how to pick up a drink and black out to everything that's going on around me. I know how to hate a feeling so much that I'll do anything to change that feeling immediately. Y'all know what I mean? And listen, for those of you that are battling addiction or you're new in recovery and you're battling the mind, you need to know you are free to check out. You're free to run. You're free to escape. The truth is you can start using again. Tonight you can pick up a drink. You can do that. But why would you? I mean, do you get the sense that you could hear Paul screaming outside the prison doors? Don't run. No, don't run. I know it's hard. I know it feels like everything is falling apart, but stay present in the struggle because that's where the deepest joy is found. I mean, can't you hear Paul saying, no, I know you don't want to give thanks right now. That's your last impulse, but don't forget to give thanks to God because the breath you have, the life you've been given, it's a gift, and what you do with this gift matters. And can't you hear Paul saying, bind yourself to other people, especially those who need you most, and remind them that they are not alone. So y'all, I started with 3 observations on joy, and I want to close with 2 questions about your joy and 1 statement about your joy. And the first is, do you believe God is holding you, sustaining you, even when it feels like you're falling? And number 2, there is so much joy to be experienced, but it's usually in the very simple ways. But are you starting with gratitude? Are you starting with what you do have? And then number 3, if you're battling addiction or depression or isolation, don't leave here tonight without binding yourself to other humans. Because I promise you, and if you're online, if you're watching right now or it's through the week, bind yourself to other humans because joy is found in that place, I promise you. So take a moment and reflect, 60 seconds to be exact, and then we'll come back. Coming, we didn't totally disappear. All right, Francis, come up here with me a moment, dude. Francis caught me in the back as I was refilling not
I gotta
coffee,
do
but
this
just
right.
hot water.
I have to do it right. First of all, on the hybrid, where am I looking here?
Where's he looking? This one. So he said he needed 20 seconds because he just had a moment. I said, Francis, we'd never done that before, but take 20 seconds, dude. Have a
Okay.
moment.
One of the main reasons I come to
Hold your
free,
mic to your mouth, though. There you go.
One of the main reasons I come to free is, on 3, folks, we don't do
shame. All right. Thank you, Francis. All right, y'all. I want to introduce you to our guest storyteller. Where is she? Okay. Every week they disappear at the end. It freaks me out. I think y'all are pranking me. She's in the bathroom. Okay. Not that. She's in the back. It's what back room. Back room. Yeah. Amy, you're going to have to forgive me if you watch us later. She's in the back room. Anyway, Amy, y'all, I cannot seriously. I get excited about all of our storytellers. I'm really excited about this one because here's what you need to know. Um, Amy and I went to college together many, many moons ago. Well, we hadn't talked for many years, and we reconnected. I don't know, a few months ago. Amy is a trauma therapist and a spiritual. Sorry, Amy. Spiritual trauma therapist. Am I saying that right? Spiritual trauma therapist. Psycho spiritual therapist and trauma therapist. So, but we connected in college because a couple of years after my brother was killed in an accident, Amy's brother was killed, and that's kind of how we connected, and we talked about grief together and how hard this was. And so, man, it was one of those moments over the last few months. I've been getting to know Amy more, her professional work. And when we got together this week and we were talking about joy, the sign joy was right behind her as she was talking. I thought that's kind of creepy in a good way, in a good way. And then she started talking about joy, and I just put my, what's this called? iPad. I just kind of set it to the side and I was just listening to her talk. It was so profound. And I said, Amy, everything you just said, I want you to come and say to my people on Saturday night. And it's such good stuff. So I want you to hear about joy from Amy and how she works with this in a professional work in therapy. All right, y'all, help me welcome Amy. This is, oh, Amy just said this is so special. What's special about it? It's her first time to
Oh,
free.
I got really. Whoa. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, you're good. They will control you in the back. I'm told
Okay.
that, to let go of my control issues when I get up here, and they control us in the back.
It's weird to hear your own voice. No, I was getting teary sitting there because this is so special. You can feel. I mean, anytime there's an emphasis on healing and vulnerability, gets me in the feels.
It gets
So,
us.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole series has been, kind of feels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am, seriously, I'm so glad you're here. I want people to hear about first, it was so fascinating to me to hear you talk about how joy is related to trauma healing. So I don't know if you want to give us a little backstory of, I know addiction runs in your family,
Yes.
and you're the loved one of an addict in that
Yes.
sense. But give us a little backstory of what you do in the world, what your work is in the world.
Yes. So professionally, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I specialize in trauma therapy. But I was thinking when you all were talking, this came up a lot this week with my clients. There's a DBT. Has anybody heard of DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy?
What, say that again?
Dialectical behavioral therapy. I
Tweet
try
that out
not to
later so
use
we have that.
jargons, because that's not what sticks in our minds, right? It's like how we can put in our bones. But there's a skill in DBT that says pain is necessary. It's necessary for growth. It's necessary to move on in life. But suffering is optional. And I was thinking so much what you're talking about of when we get stuck in suffering, and we're unable to really accept the very painful things, like you talked about the death of, that man's son, and how we can't be in isolation. We often have a lot of suffering, and that can perpetuate our trauma responses.
Yeah.
So anyway, so a little background on me. I think the purpose that I'm here in this life is to be a well ancestor. So my line I have.
You said that. I think that's so fascinating.
Yeah. I remember, so I'll tell you a story, is when I was younger. So I grew up in the high desert in Southern California. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, in a double wide, like meth capital of the
Missouri
yeah.
was the second one. That's
Second,
where I grew up.
okay. I mean, literally people lost their chemistry books and
Oh yeah, yeah.
things blowing up, and we were just like, oh, that was a Tuesday. But so I remember, I grew up. I have a very long line of domestic violence, poverty. I'm the first one to go to school, that sort of stuff. Just I'm Mexican American, so there's some of that kind of racial trauma there too. And I remember I was younger, maybe 10, and I could hear my parents fighting, like physically fighting. And in the high desert, there's this globe of stars, which are so beautiful. And I was on the trampoline as a little girl, Oh, is it not? Okay.
Should we turn our other mic off? Or?
Oh, you got it off?
Sorry, Amy.
Oh, that's okay.
Technical difficulties.
No, that's fine. Thank you. And I remember looking at the stars and I prayed to God, I need this to be different for me. Like, I need this to be different. And that has been the purpose of my life. And it's been bumpy and messy and a haul sometimes. But that, I think, is what has led me to choose social work and to choose trauma therapy specifically. And so that's my roundabout way of talking. Joy to me and trauma are tied because you have to be present. And trauma healing really asks you, it's a complete vulnerable experience to heal your trauma because you can't do it alone most of the time.
Yeah.
You have to have an understanding of what's going on, and you have to have self-compassion because a lot of times we use or we'll have a certain trauma response to survive. So it's literally your body. It's pretty ingenious trying to get you to feel better.
Yeah.
So, and joy is, when I think of joy, I think of it as such a sacred receiving. You can't buy it, you can't encapsulate it. Some of the people that I know who have the most are not joyful people, right? I've met people down in the dumps and people that have come from such hardness, and they have this light and this joy and this gratitude in them. So my private practice actually is called Wild Open Joy.
I was just seeing that today, and I forgot to put it in the thing when I wrote it.
Yeah.
Wild Open Joy.
Wild Open Joy.
Come on, how good
Which
is that?
I have like a 12-year-old boy humor. It keeps getting blocked. It's like Google Workspace, but I think it sounds sexual, so it keeps getting blocked with people. And I'm like, I just want to help people with their childhood trauma. I'm not trying to sell anything. But
Oh, shoot.
anyway, yes. So that is, very often when we start working on our trauma, which is asking us to be present in the life that we have, in the body that we have, with the thoughts that we have, very often joy is more present. And it's pretty fascinating what happens with clients when they start to see, you can't make joy happen. Everybody knows the feeling of joy, right? And if you don't, I want to tell you too, it's okay. It's a marker. If you can't feel joy and you feel numb, that's a good time to maybe need to talk with a processor or a healer. A lot of times when things are blocked, it's just a sign.
So
yeah.
I totally agree with you. Joy is like the present thing.
Yeah.
So we can't experience when we live in the past. We can't experience when we're future tripping.
Yes.
Talk to us about how joy is in the present. And you also said it was really interesting when you talked about joy is this great act of vulnerability.
Yes. So a lot of times if you've had childhood trauma, I can relate, right? When you feel joy and you've done nothing to deserve it, right? It's just given to you. Very quickly, if you're like me, you'll have a thought of, well, something's going to happen, or who am I to think that I could experience this? All of your mind. I don't want to make your mind sound like it's awful, but your mind is, my favorite trauma therapist calls your mind's kind of predatory. It's meant to survive, and so it will, any risk, it will pop up with a thought like that, right?
So is that like the moment when good things are happening around me, but I'm just
Yes.
the next shoe's going to drop at any moment?
Any moment. Usually when you have joy, you cling or you push. Brene Brown has, and I can relate to this. I have 3 small children. This story where she's watching her children sleep and oh, my children, my little angel babies, and then she's like, oh, they're gonna die, and these things are gonna happen, and I can't let them walk to school. And very often that happens in joy, and joy is fleeting. You can't hold on to it.
Yeah.
It's a gift that is given through us. The same thing, I think, again, joy is such a sacred gift. And for my work, I have to believe this or I wouldn't keep doing this because it's hard work. That is also sacred.
Yes.
That healing is sacred. So
Tell us a story if you're okay with it.
Yeah.
The one of you and your mom in the funeral home.
Oh, at the funeral home. Oh my gosh. Okay. So my family, I said I'm Mexican American, and my family's been through some really difficult things, but they are storytellers and they're funny, and they did give me that gift that we can stay present in joy. So my brother was 17, died from a hit and run. He was also intoxicated, and he was hit by a drunk driver. And we had no money. My mom was a single parent. And we're in this funeral home, and they're trying to sell my mom. We had to get my brother cremated because we didn't have enough money to do anything different. they're trying to sell my mom these like ornate boxes. And, pulling her aside, my mom's kind of like clamming up. And I pull her aside and I'm like, Mom, we have to get the cardboard box. Like, we can't afford these ornate boxes. And she looks at me and just starts laughing, like, your brother would kill us if he knew we were, putting him in this cardboard box. And we both just started laughing. And so we held hands and went and talked to the person, like, kind of in solidarity of, like, we have to use this cardboard box. But I remember that feeling, and that happens often. If you're a healer or a processor, we call it, like, healing from the cave, and I think of this with joy. When you have joy from the cave, when it's dark and you have these glittering moments of, to me, it reminds us that there's something. So I do a lot of work with folks about intrinsic worth. And when you have childhood trauma, when you have any trauma of sort, but also when there's shame cycles with addiction, you get out of touch with your intrinsic worth. You usually think you have to prove something, or it's the idea of like God or whatever giving you this love is just, it's uncomfortable, right? It's again about receiving. I don't even know where I was going with that.
I'm so glad you mentioned it, because as Francis reminded us for a second time tonight, we don't do shame. And that kind of thinking keeps us from that. It will always make us push love away, especially unconditional love.
Yes.
Amy, you've got to tell us a little bit about, and we could have a conversation all night long. We're going to bring you back here, I hope.
Okay.
And I need to tell y'all.
I was like, I felt like
No. You're totally on topic.
Wordy.
But I want you to tell us about Brene Brown in just a moment. Don't let me forget about that. Oh yeah, she's thirsty.
Okay.
Tell us about. You said, and again, it's fascinating to me. Joy is radical.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Tell us why joy is radical,
Yes.
and then tell us a little bit about your Brene Brown experience.
Okay, I'll start with the Brene Brown because I do think we.
That's why we originally started talking. Remember? And it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Yes. Oh, do you all know what trauma is? I think like thinking of that through a lens. I brought again, I think we learn better, not clinical terms, but I just wanted to read this. This stuck with me so much as a trauma survivor myself. Has anybody read Mary Karr? Have you heard of her?
Mary Karr,
she's
put it on the
amazing.
list.
Anyway, okay, so she writes this, and see if you resonate with this. When you've been hurt enough as a kid, maybe at any age, it's like you have a trick knee. Most of your life you can function like an adult, but add in the right portions of sleeplessness and stress and grief, and the hurt, defeated self, can bloom into place. So very often the clients I work with, right, like I don't know why I behave the way I do, or I don't know, So I wanted to bring this in of why I think trauma healing is radical. I think it changes lineages. I think it changes families. I mean, that's why I was teary hearing what you were talking about, because I'm like, you're literally changing. Like the moment you're vulnerable enough to say you need some help, So that's why I think joy is radical too. Getting help, facing some of your patterns and creating new patterns. Literally receiving joy is extremely radical. It is really kind of the antithesis. How do you say antithesis?
Antithetical.
Antithesis.
That word, y'all know that word.
Antithesis. Of our a capitalistic sort of, you buy this, like just literally receiving just because it's intrinsic is it's radical, and it can allow you to give. I notice the most joyful people I know, it doesn't stay with them, it radiates out.
Yeah. In the recovery community, we say to keep the gift, you have to give it away.
Yes, you have to give it away.
Which is also a Christian tradition and a spiritual tradition and other traditions.
It's never meant to just be
kept.
Kept alone. Yes.
So, okay.
Oh, my Brene Brown story.
Brene Brown. And
I read you about trauma because I remember, I always struggled with symptoms of PTSD, but I'm very high functioning. I, again, first one to go to school. I thought I was was in therapy in and out, but I thought I was doing pretty good. Then I had children, and children triggered me more than anybody, probably marriage and children. And I would feel like I didn't deserve joy. And I remember I was in this, and I was hanging on. I was a program manager in All Health Network. It's a community mental health. And but I was a mess, and I didn't know how to talk to people. Same thing, that isolation of like, I'm losing it a little bit. And I have these 3 small children. And I remember I did the Brene Brown Daring Way training, so I'm certified in that. That's what Ryan's talking about. I hope I can bring it to the community because it's a really powerful group. but you had to pick your values. It was like this like list of values. And I wanted to pick like justice, because I'm a social worker, and like accountability. But I circled fun and joy. That's all I could think about. And you had to go around the room, and it was with my peers. It wasn't like with people I didn't know. It was other professionals in the community mental health world. And I was like shy, like, oh, I picked fun and joy, and they're gonna think I'm this flighty lady who like, and I wanted them to think I'm intelligent and professional. And the group facilitator, I said that, oh, I'm embarrassed, but it's fun and joy. And she said, oh my gosh, do you know how brave and courageous it is to be joyful? Do you know how much it is to put yourself out there? And I thought, oh my gosh, I can think of that little girl on the trampoline through all of this, like me getting triggered by my children was the opportunity. My not feeling joy and feeling like I wasn't, getting it was the opportunity for more healing. I mean, this healing journey never stops. So,
I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us tonight, Amy. And we will be organizing at some point in the future. We had bigger plans for this when we were moving, but Amy's going to be leading is it called Daring Greatly?
It's Daring Greatly.
Daring Greatly, a course seminar here.
Yes.
What do we call it? Group
It's like
therapy?
group therapy.
Group therapy.
Yeah.
Where you'll hear more about it, but it's going to be really good. I promise you all that.
Powerful stuff.
If you want to connect with Amy, because she does have a practice
I
where
do
she
have a
deals with
private
trauma
practice.
therapy, Google Wild Open Joy.
Yes, you can
But
Google
go to the second one down. The first one, really dicey.
Yeah, be careful.
No, I'm just
what's
kidding.
out there. Oh my gosh, I just got red. The
Yeah.
bathroom and now the
It's odd. Sorry. I don't usually embarrass our guest storytellers. Amy, I'm really glad you're here with us tonight. Are you going to stick around tonight if
Yeah,
people
I'll
want to
stick
connect with
around,
you?
yes.
Okay. People are going to stick. She's going to stick around if y'all have questions, comments for her.
Sure.
Thank you for being here, Amy. So grateful for you.
All right.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you can take that back. All right, here at Free, if you're new with us tonight, we do end by 8:15. What time is it? All right, so we got about 15 minutes left. The way we close things down here is, I mentioned it to y'all earlier, we do heartaches together. We take that stuff seriously. So we don't just celebrate together. We also carry burdens together because, as we've talked about, y'all are not competent when it comes to carrying burdens alone. You're not strong enough, and that's a good thing. We do it together in community. So I want you to take 3 minutes. And again, if you're online, put them in the comments. I know it can feel vulnerable, but vulnerable is good. It can feel creepy, and creepy is sometimes good. Put it in the comments. Let this community in on your heartaches. God always hears the cries of the people. So if you're here tonight live in the house, we'll again do our own thing. So we'll see y'all back here in 3 minutes. joining me up here tonight? Is Peyton joining me? Peyton, you going to join me up here? Peyton joins me some Saturday nights for these heartaches because Peyton is on our prayer team, and you lift people up throughout the week with us as a team, so I'm grateful you're part of that. But, dude, you got to stand on this side. That just freaks me out to have someone on that side. Tammy's always on this side, man. Not that you're Tammy or anything, but
There's no way I'm competing.
I'll just stop making this here awkward. You want to take the first one?
like
So
weird.
we'll take some heartaches from the community online and lift you all up in prayer. Peyton, you got the first one?
Thank you. Candlin, did I say that right? Praying for someone I love to use wisdom.
All right, Candlin. Thank you for sharing that with us.
We'll lift that up.
Sydney says, praying for my daughter's fever to go down and that she doesn't have COVID. Sydney, dang, praying that with you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Praying for the whole family tonight.
Ricky, prayers for my niece and her family and my coworker. They both lost their father-in-law to COVID. It's tough.
Prayers for you, Ricky. Glad you're here, brother. Allison says, my brother lost his battle with heroin on September 2nd. Our hearts hurt. Allison, man, our hearts hurt with yours. This is Overdose Awareness Month, right? September. Prayers for you and the family. Yeah.
Kavita. Hi, Kavita. Multiple friends going through breakups. Watching about 5 different friends grieve relationships. My heart breaks for them. Kavita, we're here for you, and we love you so much.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that with us. Hope you're enjoying Keystone tonight at the convention. Debbie says, prayers for the families of the 13 soldiers lost. One was from our town. They will arrive to their hometowns this weekend. Yeah, prayers for all of them. The loss that those families are experiencing. Thank you for lifting them up, Debbie. We're lifting them with you in this community.
Jerome lost another fellow veteran to suicide last week. Rest in peace, Major Me Pascal.
Yeah. Jerome, thanks, man. I know you've lost a lot of comrades to suicide, so thanks for lifting them up. We're praying for them, with you. Jen says, pray for Mom. Find some answers and pain relief for her back and leg. Jen, lifting up your mom. Thank you for sharing that with our community. Let's do one more. You take us out,
'Kay.
Peyton.
Thank you. Suzanne, please pray for my mother-in-law. She has COVID and trying to recover. Suzanne,
All
thank
right.
you for sharing that with us. We love you.
Suzanne, glad you and Kenny are part of this community, praying for your mother-in-law as they recover. Y'all, I'm so glad you take time to be part of this community online. We're grateful for you. Thank you, Peyton, for being up here with me. Love you,
you.
brother.
Love
Thanks
you.
for serving on our team.
Yes, sir.
And I want to mention to y'all, speaking of online community, I want y'all to just see a little video from Jeff and Lisa. Jeff and Lisa Swenson. They have been tuning into this community for about a year now, somewhere around a year, and they've never been here to free. They financially support this community. They've never been here to free. So I called them a couple weeks ago and I said, man, I see y'all online all the time. It's so awesome. You've never been here, but you're part of our online community. Can you come in and shoot a video? So they came in and shot this video this week. It was their first time here. Not this week. It was a couple weeks ago. Anyway, Danny captured it on video, and I just thought I'd share with you to hear from some of our online community. Here they are.
I'm Jeff Swenson, and this is Lisa Swenson, and we are loved ones of addicts. We have 3 of them that we're very proud of. Well, yeah, one of the things that you always say is we don't do shame. And, you know, one of the things that we learned long time ago was that we could be mad at our kids, we could be frustrated, we could be scared, we could be all those emotions, but we were never ashamed of them. And, you know, your friends can offer support, like, well, gosh, it's so tough what you're going through, but if they haven't gone through it, they can't relate. And I think the phrase, the comparison or analogy I used was it's like having a big pimple on your nose. Everybody can see it, they feel bad about seeing it, but they don't really want to call attention to it and dive into the detail because they don't know what to do. They can't really offer any support. Here, the stories that people share of their addiction or their loved one's addiction and the messages that you offer, they're great messages of hope that I think people can relate to.
You feel like you make so many mistakes, and to just know that it's okay to make those mistakes, it's not going to make any difference, and to just do what you feel you need to do. I never wanted to feel that I would come through this wishing I had done something different. And so I think to have somebody say it's okay to feel all these things, to act like a maniac, trying to save your child. That's what moms do, and it's okay. And but also, to reach out and get that support. Find a community of support so you're not trying to struggle on your own, because this is too big to do by yourself.
You're going to get angry, and you're going to get mad, and you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to try to fix it. Those are all valid feelings, and you can't fix it. We support it because there's way more people out there that need this place. And however you can reach them, whatever we can do to help, it's important.
And we're excited to see this community grow.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of hurting people out there.
So I know many of y'all here have never met Jeff and Lisa, but now y'all know them. They're family now. And Jeff and Lisa, I know y'all are watching right now. So glad you are part of this community. Thank you for coming in a couple of weeks ago and doing that film with us and with Danny. Glad y'all are part of this, and thank you for supporting this community. And I do want to close by saying, y'all know that we were in our Welcome Home campaign. I wanted to give you the final wrap-up of that because we spent all summer in our Welcome Home campaign, and we were going places. And listen, we are still going places. We just don't know where. Isn't that the way faith works? But over the last 15 weeks, this community did raise close to $400,000 to prepare for our new home. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. So huge. I think we had 111 people contribute to this campaign. So thank you for being a part of that. And what I would say is we are better prepared now than we've ever been to have a new home and to have it's not just about a building. I hope you all know it's about people, of course, but to have the permanence of free in our community, to have the permanence of breaking the silence of addiction. And that's what it's all about. So I do want to just remind you that campaign's over, but we still have ongoing needs here, and your giving helps sustain the mission here at Free. And there's 3 ways to give. You can do it through the app. It's simple and secure. You can give monthly, weekly, bi-monthly, however you want to do it, one time. Or you can go right to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, and give that way. Or you can text the number on your screen, text Be the Wagon, and it will walk you through instructions. And we say it every week, and we mean it. Your generous giving helps sustain the mission here at Free. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's go out with a word of prayer, shall we? And look at that, it's 8:14 every week, man. I said 8:15. It's almost like we should have a moment of silence to get to 8:15, which is called prayer. Francis is demonstrating for us. Let's open our hands. Because see, when we open our hands, it's a sign of openness to the divine, breathing in us and through us and all around us. Be conscious of your breath, because for some of you, this is the most quiet moment you've had all week long. So breathe it in. And let's together pray the Lord's Prayer. If you don't know it, it will be on your screen. And it goes like this. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right, y'all, my three brothers and sisters. This week, may you leave and experience all kinds of grace and peace and glimpses of joy along the way, because you, my friends, are worth it, and God goes with you. We will see you next week.